What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Derek McGee. It is an honor and a privilege and a blessing to have each one of you joining us this evening for the launch of a vision God gave called The Covenant Brothers, a real conversation with the Covenant Brothers. I'm excited about this privilege and this honor and this blessing of God entrusting with this vision. To make it even better, I'm doing it with four of my Covenant Brothers. We're going to have a real conversation about real things. And so you are a part of history tonight. Sit back, enjoy our conversation. Let me caution you up front. We're not coming on to sugarcoat anything. We come on to be real, to be honest, to have good conversation, and to be a blessing to each one of you. Thank you once again for being a part of this vision that God gave to me to go forward. And so, Covenant Brothers, these are four dear men of God who are near and dear to my heart. They are brothers that I talk to every day throughout the day. We hold each other accountable. We encourage each other. Not only are we each pastors, we're also husbands. We are fathers. One is actually a grandfather, but we are covenant brothers. And so to be able to do this launch with them is absolutely amazing. The plan right now is to launch this, have a show every fourth Sunday of the month. That is our plan at 7 o'clock p.m. on live on Facebook and on YouTube. Let me share now. Our plans to talk about real things. So something transpires in our country that we think we need to lend voice to. We're going to have special shows in that regard. Now, sit back, enjoy this conversation, if you will. Let me first introduce one of my first covenant brothers, that of Pastor Richard Ash II. If you will, please welcome my brother as he joins us. Pastor Ash, what's up, bro?
How you doing, bro? Good to be here.
I'm doing well, man. Good to see you, my brother. So Pastor Ash is the pastor of the Net Church in Quincy, Florida. He is part of the Kojic denomination. And so, brother, thank you for being a part of this, man. Just give some opening words to the people before we jump into the show.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, it's going to be some real conversations, and I'm glad that people are getting a chance to see us behind the collar, and see who we are as people and as men, as well as husbands, and deal with different things. You know how I am. I just like to keep things real. That's how I am. I'm not fake or sugarcoating anything. So, and I love you, brothers, dearly. It's good to have some brothers that I can actually talk to, understand what we may be going through and things of that nature. So this is just a blessing, I believe, for the body, for others, that they're going to be able to chance to see us in different lights than they probably used to seeing some of us in.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being a part of this. Next up is my dear brother, Pastor Roosevelt Rogers III. Pastor Ro, man, come on and say good morning good evening to everyone, man.
Good evening, everybody. I'm excited about joining our Covenant Brothers. As they said, we hold each other accountable, and it's an opportunity for us to be able to talk about real life issues. And as Ash has said already, allowing persons to be able to see us behind the collar, that we are normal people who like to have fun, that will talk about a gamut of things. And so I'm excited about tonight.
Thank you, bro, for being a part of this, man. Next up is my brother, Pastor Julius Harris. Pastor Harris, join us, man.
Hey, what's happening, brothers? Man, good to see y'all. I'm excited about this conversation, man, and I think that is necessary, is needed. I mean, I'm just glad to be here. Looking forward to having some great dialogue, man, concerning definitely what we're talking about tonight. Who will be behind the collar? So, man, let's get it started, brothers.
Love it, man. Let me mention that Pastor Rogers is the pastor of the Old Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church in Havana, Florida. Pastor Harris is the pastor of the New Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church in Havana, Florida. And then last but not least, our fifth partner in this is Pastor Bernard E. Hudson of the Arnett Chapel AME Church in Quincy, Florida. Bernard, what's up, man? Speak to the people.
What's up, man? Good to see everybody. Glad to be on. Glad to have this opportunity to do something with some brothers I hold near and dear to my heart. Looking forward to the conversations that we're going to have. I believe they're going to be fruitful conversations, good conversations, and excited about this first time where everybody kind of gets to know a little bit more about us rather than what they see when we're in the pulpits or when we're doing those ecclesial roles. So I'm excited about it.
Awesome, man. So ladies and gentlemen, again, we're going to jump into our show. Y'all pray for Pastor Rogers. He's a Cowboys fan, and they're losing in this hour, and so I know he's struggling to stay focused. He's set back in reality, and so we're gonna go ahead and jump in and deal with that first and foremost. So listen, man, we want to, in our opening show, we want the people to be able to know who we are, right? And so we are not only pastors, we're also husbands. We are fathers, as you are a grandfather. But we also are very protective of our private space and our personal spaces, right? While we may be active on social media, we try to protect who we are. But tonight, let's be honest with the people and tell them who we are beyond the collar, right? Some people know us in certain contexts. And so each of us on here, not only are we pastors, we're bivocational, right? So we pastor churches, we work full-time jobs, et cetera, et cetera. We're entrepreneurs in that regard. And so let's start out with you, Ash. Share with the people, other than you being a pastor, what do you do when you're not in the pulpit?
Also, I'm a deputy sheriff for 31 years with the Leon County Sheriff's Office. So I've been working more than half my life, and also a husband to my lovely wife Chantrell, and 3 kids: Richard, Arbiana, Taylor, and I have 1 granddaughter also, is Lauren. So I stay busy between church and work and home and everything else. My plate stays full. So a lot of people may know, I grew up here in this area. So a lot of us that are here from Tallahassee or that area, they know me a gamut of. It all depends on what name they call me. Is how I know where they know me from. So I mean, that's just being real. It all depends on what they say. I can say, I know where we know each other from. But that's just me. So that's me in a nutshell. There, all my different titles, I guess I carry.
Ro, talk to the people, man. Other than you being a pastor, I mean, you also work a full-time job, man. You're a husband and father. So who are you beyond the collar?
As you already said, Derek, I am an avid Cowboy fan. So it's tough right now, man, watching this game. But I am bivocational. I work for the Florida Department of Health, Tobacco Prevention in Gaston County. And so outside of that, man, one of my greatest hobbies, man, is getting outside on my smokers. So beyond just working, man, I love being, outside, flipping meat on my smokers, man. Been married.
Thank you for clarifying when you said smoker. So people thought you talking about weed, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, as you stated, man, married, soon to be 23 years, 2 amazing kids, man. And so I was telling my dad the other day, man, I think my son, man, because I'm ripping and running with him in football and other organizations. So outside of the pulpit.
Awesome, man. Y'all pray for Ro, man. You got that bad Wi-Fi. Listen, audience, we keep it real. This is who we are. We are real brothers, man. So we're gonna crack on each other. We're gonna have fun. You're gonna get a chance to see us behind the curtains, how we really interact with each other. And so there's no holds bar. Pastor Jay, talk to the people, man. Who are you beyond? So listen, y'all. So Jay is a black farmer, and I'm gonna let him expound upon that. So if you never met a black farmer in your life, you about to meet one of them. I don't know if you can see him. I mean, his Wi-Fi worse than Ro's Wi-Fi, but we're gonna go ahead. Jay, can you hear us? Help the man. Help. He frozen. Look at that. Pastor Hudson, as we get Pastor Jay back on, man, talk to the people. You also work a full-time job. Talk to us. Who are you behind the collar?
Yeah, behind the collar, I do work a full-time job. I actually work for the state of Florida for the Agency for Healthcare Administration. I've been there about 23 years. Now I serve as the bureau chief for the Bureau of Health Facility Regulation. Deals with a regulatory body for all these healthcare facilities in the state. Also, I am married to what I affectionately call my pretty preachy praying partner.
Amen, brother.
We've been married for 14 years. We have 1 daughter, Kyla, who is the songbird. So we essentially almost have our own church wherever we go.
Amen.
We just kind of take it with us. Also a student, trying to wrap things up. But that's a little bit about me and what I do outside of church.
All right. So while we get both Ro and Jay back on. We're gonna proceed. So Ash, let me deal with you first, man. For y'all, you know, Ash is a at least second generation preacher, right? Ash's dad also pastors a church. And so let's deal with you first, Ash. Talk to people about growing up in church, being the son of a preacher, and then become son of a pastor and becoming a pastor. Especially in an area, man, where you were born and raised, right? People know you in various contexts, man. But speak to it, Ash, about just really being the son of a pastor, how that affects you in that regard. There are people out there who are sons or daughters of preachers, right? And it's hard being a PK. And so just speak to your story in that regard.
Well, I think growing up with my dad being a pastor and everything else, he was definitely influential in my life. A strict disciplinarian. We was gonna get the message first before anybody else got it. And one thing about him was maybe different than some of my other PK friends. Because you know, a lot of times they was always like the baddest kids in church be the pastor's kids. Not in my house it wasn't. It just didn't happen. My dad didn't play that. You know what I'm saying? So as well as I tell people all the time, those people that really know me know that this was not like something I was like clamoring for. I did not want to pastor. You know, I saw my dad do it. It was not something I was like sitting there dreaming that, you know, one day I'm gonna be in the pulpit too. I was like, nah, bro, he can have it. That's it. That's his thing. So, but it was so that's what I knew, that the calling for me was real, because it was not like something I was trying to get to. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't. I wasn't. But the opportunity presented itself as I began to grow in the ministry, and I didn't quite fit as a deacon for a while. I did that, and then I taught what we call YPWW, is young people willing work. I taught that, and then my father would be like, I'm bootleg preaching in that, and so you know before I know it, I was a young minister, then I was a young elder, and then I became a pastor. But I appreciate it, you know, more now, because I can look back on it and see actually God's hand in it, and not
Amen.
my father's. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
By that?
absolutely.
That it was not like something that he was like, hey, you need to do this, or you need to keep this going, or something. It wasn't that. It was. I had to know that the calling was truly for me. You know what I'm saying? Because like me, I'm real straightforward. I'm not. You know, we all brothers on here. I don't speak as eloquent as the doctors to be on here, and Derek McGee, the governor of the state of Florida. You know what I'm saying? I'm just who I am. So I had to make sure you want me now, because you know me, I may not say something some other jokers on here say. I ain't gonna get in that tonight, but you know me, you know me. I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you. Yeah, but I'm comfortable more now in my calling, because I know I'm just gonna be authentically who God called me to be.
That's right.
And when I'm doing that, I know I'm getting God the glory for it. So I appreciate my dad being there for me, and my mom, and I appreciate them, and I also appreciate them not pressuring me to be in ministry. Now there was always a pressure to be saved. You got to go to heaven, son. But it was never like I had to be a pastor. I mean, I'm just being real with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have to give your life to Christ. But it was never that pressure to actually for the ministry, and I think that was made it more acceptable. That I knew it was actually for me.
And listen, y'all need to know too. So Ash is the one of us. So Ash will preach on a Sunday morning in some J's, right? He gonna preach in some Jordans, right?
I just did.
And he'll be in a full decked out suit with a preacher collar on and some Jordans on, right? That's who he gonna be. Gonna always be that way. He's always been that way, and I appreciate that about him, right? He's gonna, don't ask him a question you don't want to answer to. Ain't gonna be no sugarcoating around it. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. So Jay, you back on, man. I was sharing with the people that they've never seen a real life black farmer. They're gonna meet one tonight. Julius Harris is a black farmer.
Yes, sir.
So talk about that, man. Again, that's part
Yes,
of you
sir.
being outside the pulpit, man. That you delve in entrepreneurship. You and your wife are business owners by way of daycare centers, but you also own cattle and all that type of stuff, man. So speak to that passion and that pursuit. That's had nothing to do with you being a preacher.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you, man. We were having some technical
We back
difficulties,
on.
but I think we back. But absolutely, man. My wife and I, we're entrepreneurs, and we have a school over in Quincy with multiple locations, and also we own a sod farm. And man, I also invest with my dad and my uncles. We have cattle up in Cairo, Georgia. So man, that's been a blessing for me as well, man. It's therapeutic being around animals, and man, I spend a lot of time outside, man. And so that's a peaceful place for me. But man, I'm excited to be just a part of this conversation, and I think just hearing everybody else talk about, answering that question, who are we beyond the color? First, let me say this too, bro. Let me thank you, man, for being obedient to carry out this vision. And I think that question is important because for most of us, for most preachers, when you ask us who we
Yeah,
are, we
there
tell
it
you
is.
what we do. And I know for me, man, pastoring is what I do. Entrepreneurship is
Come
what
on
I
now.
do, but it's not who I am. Let me start with this.
Here
Jason
it is.
Wilson,
Here
man,
it is.
he would be what I would call my remote mentor,
Hey,
right?
y'all, you will always quote
Yeah,
somebody. There
yeah.
it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Y'all leave me alone. But listen, yeah, he would be what I would call my remote mentor. And so a remote mentor is somebody that you don't necessarily know personally, but you follow them, man. You respect the work that they do. And man, I got all this guy books, and I follow what he does. And man, he's phenomenal when it comes to just ministry to men and boys. And so what he says is that usually we kind of define who we are by
Okay.
three characteristics. Being a protector, provider, and a priest. And we are those, but we're so much more than that, man. And he really helped me to just redefine manhood. And I had this quote on my wall in my office, and it is, when you define yourself, is I am anything and everything I need to be at
Oh, I
any
like
given
that.
moment. And so, man, whatever my wife needs for me to be, I need to be that at any given moment. Whatever my sons need for me to be, I need to be that at any given moment, man. And so that's been really helping me to kind of navigate, just through life.
So, Bernard, let's deal with you, man. So you, as you already mentioned, man, you pastor, you work in state government. You are our brother who's an AME pastor, and people don't know about the AME, that you all are seen really as itinerant preachers, and so you're on a 1-year assignment, and every year at conference you could be reassigned to your church or move somewhere else. And so thank God at the most recent conference you got reassigned. Right, but people don't know how that works in the AME church, man. But just speak to, man, the balancing really of being a government employee, a pastor, in that regard, and everything else that goes into it. Your daughter just graduated from high school, so you guys are navigating through that, man. So to expound upon that.
Yeah, it can be, and I'm sure just like everybody else, it's a balancing act. And so trying to be able to do what we do to and I never wanted it. I guess I need to back up a second. I never wanted church to be what puts the food on the table. It was
Come on
really
now.
something I
Come on
do
now.
as a love. I absolutely, I tell people all the time, it's a job I do for absolutely nothing.
Yes, sir.
Because I love what I do. I love being the pastor. I love seeing the light bulbs go off for people. So it's a balancing act, though, because you have those, on my secular job, there are those expectations, and trying to balance those expectations, as well as trying to make sure I'm there for whenever the parishioners need me. It's can be sometimes a task. It can be, something that's kind of difficult to deal with, and making sure, just like all of you have said so far, especially what Julius just said, trying to be what family and everybody else who connects to us needs for us to be. And it can sometimes be a lot to carry. And being AME, and I often joke that my wife and I AME with the Pentecostal flair. That we don't quite do it like everybody else does, but I absolutely love our order. I love our method. I love our setup. But I believe that God has laid an anointing upon the both of us that's a little bit different. And you're right.
I felt that, Bernard. I felt that.
Come on now.
It can be somewhat a little bit nerve-wracking. You're right. We just had our annual conference about 2 weeks ago, and sitting on pins and needles because we're given an appointment for 1 year at a time. Now, you may be fortunate enough to get multiple appointments to the same place. Thank God that this is going on year number 8 for us at Arnett Chapel. But That's not everybody's story. Some people get to stay that period of time. Some people may be shorter periods of time. And so you just never know where your gifts and talents are going to be needed. And being itinerant, we're at the beck and call of the bishop. And so if the bishop decides that our gifts and talents can be used elsewhere, then, we got to go where the bishop sends us. And so, balancing who I am, what brings home, the bacon, balancing who I am as a husband, as a father, and in all my other relationships with people. Sometimes you got to be careful because you can get to be schizophrenic with all that stuff going on.
Come on.
You got to know what you're dealing with. And I don't think people think about that a lot of times. And I want to say this, that I'm a big proponent of taking care of your mental health, because I think sometimes what happens to pastors and preachers so often is we die out silently because we don't get a chance to say, I got a lot of stuff going on in here, and who I am to everybody that we're dealing with. And so, that's a little bit about, how, I kind of deal with things and trying to face all of the things that come up being a pastor, being a full-time, state of Florida employee. And then I didn't mention my daughter, but she comes into play too, and coming out of high school and going into college. So that's a whole nother story. And just trying to deal with that and juggle all those things.
Absolutely, man. Pastor Rogers, man. So you mentioned earlier, man, about smoking. I will tell you, the brother can do something on the grill now. He don't root for the right teams, but he can do something on the grill. He is the biggest FSU hater in the entire world, which usually means
I rooted for them yesterday.
Usually means he actually is a real fan, right? When you hate somebody, hey, your team just lost too, by the way, 28-6.
I saw that, man.
I'll make sure you know that. Like they lost.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Okay. Make sure you. So something was said earlier by Bernard. I want you to speak to.
Okay.
Bro. Bernard mentioned about he wanted to make sure that preaching wasn't what really took care of the house, all right? Like we do it because we've been called. We love to do it. But we grew up in a different context. I want to expound upon after you finish speaking, though, where our fathers in the ministry, years gone by, right? We saw them where their only income was church. You do other things, as you mentioned. I mean, you get on the grill, and some people don't realize that that's therapeutic, right? It's therapeutic. But just talk to that venture. Why did you start doing that? Other things that you're doing, like tell us why that's important to you.
Yeah. Well, I got into it, man, as a way of that's kind of my pulpit outside of the sanctuary. Okay. So that's my environment, man, where I can just be me.
Yeah.
I ain't got to worry about the meat asking me no questions. I ain't got to worry about the fire asking, is it hot enough? So it allows me, man, just to be out there, man. And truth be told, man, my wife will come out there and ask me, why do I stay out there while I'm cooking? Because most people, man, when you hear them talk about smoking, barbecue, all that kind of stuff, they'll say stuff like, if you're looking, you ain't cooking. But man, I just like being in that quiet space. It allows an opportunity, man, for us to juggle so many different things that's going on in our head. As you said, we're bivocational for the most part. We're husbands, we're fathers, we're sons, we're friends, but still we got to make sure that in the midst of all of our titles, we never lose who we are.
Man, that's right.
And so that allows me an opportunity, man, just to kind of free myself, to be out there and doing what I love, man. Cooking is in my blood, man. My grandmother was an amazing cook. She wasn't a chef, but she was an amazing cook, man. And so people got to understand there's a difference being a cook and a chef. Yeah. Cooks put something together, man. And so it's in my blood. But more so, man, I think we just got to make sure that we don't lose our identity within our titles. Mm-hmm. Because Jay said something earlier, man, pastoring is what we do, but it's not who we are. Cooking is what I do. It's not who I am. And so what people will find out about pastors, man, is we are multifaceted. We're able to juggle and do many things. But one thing I'll tell people is never forget the humanity of your pastor.
Yes, sir.
And so they think we carry stuff well. And so everybody will check on everybody. But as you're listening to our hearts and the things that we're saying, just make sure at some point you just check in on us to make sure we're good. So I'll kind of say that.
Yes, sir, man. So let's jump into this, man. We've talked about who we are behind the collars. Along with me pastoring a great people, I also work in politics as a lobbyist for 22 years. I'm an entrepreneur as well. God has blessed me. I have another business. I believe in multiple streams of income, right? As much as I'm grateful for the income I get from my church, it's not my number one primary income in that regard. This is not my context, right? I've been in church my entire life, and in my entire life, every pastor I've been up under, from my birth city and state of Peoria, Illinois, to growing up in Los Angeles, California, to being in Tallahassee prior to pastoring, each pastor I was up under, their number one primary income was the church. And when that church fluctuated in income, so did they, man. And while I appreciated that and I understood that, I also grew up, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. My mom did the best that she could. And so I knew that I wanted to make sure that I never found myself being strapped or overly dependent upon one stream coming in, because that can be dictated and controlled. And so I'm grateful, but even in the ability to be multifaceted, I'm very clear as to the assignment of God upon my life, right? And I think that's important. When the five of us together is not only we hold each other accountable, man, is that we're not trying to be to the people who we're not behind closed doors, right? That's just not who we are. We're going to always keep it real in that regard. I think that's important. I want to delve into a deeper conversation, man, that I think this is important. And Ro, you said it, and I was going to go there. And so since we are having real talk with real brothers, let's talk about this. I want to throw this out there. What frustrates you about the assumptions people place on you as a pastor? What frustrates you? I'll start with me first. What frustrates me about the assumption put on me as a pastor is that's all I can do, right? Is that it's the challenge of, in most settings, I can't just be Derek, right? In most settings, like I hate going to events where people automatically assume because I'm the preacher, I need to lead the prayer. Like, all of us in here saints, right? Why y'all don't know how to pray? Like, what's going on? Everybody looking at me, so I get real quiet, right? But it's the frustration of not being able to be Derek, right? And people know you in different contexts. I get that, but when you joke around and play around, some people can't handle that because they only see you in one manner, right? I am a relaxing individual. I love to laugh. I love the joke. I love being around real people, right? People who are not real make me uncomfortable, right? And I'm being real about it. When you just not real, when you always trying to put on facade, I can't be around you. I can't relate to that. And so it is frustrating when you can't just be who you are, because who you are is a person who is flawed. But thank God for his grace and for his mercy. But because people want to keep you on a pedestal, even when you're telling them don't put you up there, it becomes challenging because the simplest thing you do. Or second frustration is when another pastor, let's say publicly, has a fall, whether it be extramarital affair, whatever it may be, all of a sudden the assumption is that we all are like that, right? Now, you didn't put in work to be sincere to the things of God, and people instantly, and people don't understand the seriousness of ministry and how we take seriously our preparation, how we love on our people, things of that nature. And so that's the question, man, is what frustrates you about people's assumptions of you as a pastor? And let's open up the conversation, man. I'm not going to really call on much. Let's talk. Whoever wants to jump in first.
Derek, I'll go.
All right, let's do it.
I think one of the things that I think frustrates me, and it may be for others as well, is when they expect us to preach through when we're in pain. And oftentimes, man, I just shared this with our church today, man. When we lose a member, and you lose a family member, that pastor grieves that same loss. And so sometimes the struggle is showing up every Sunday, showing up every Wednesday, empty and depleted, because we all know Sunday coming next week. We all know Wednesday is coming next week. And then other times, man, and I said this earlier introduction, man, I think members and just persons in general, and this is no particular church, no particular person, but I think, man, sometimes they think we carry hurt well.
Mm.
They just assume God called you to pastor. He's enabling you to manage your hurt. And so we just got to be mindful of that. And so when Bernard said earlier, man, we got to make sure we deal with our mental health. I think that is key, because I think a lot of people out there really think, man, we handle pain well.
Yeah.
And we hurt just like everybody else. But the difference is they can bleed up to us, but we can't bleed down to them.
And that's so good. So let me jump on that before everybody else jumps back in, because I think there's something that people don't know about you that you have shared in public settings, and I want you, if you will be willing to share, man, about the beginning of your pastorate, and you started pastoring at a critical loss in your personal life.
Yeah.
I think that's relevant to what you're talking about now, man.
Yeah. So what Derek is talking about, 13 years ago, I stood on the first Sunday in the month of March, being recently asked to be the interim pastor of the Old Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church. And when I stood up on that Sunday, my mom was gravely ill, and she actually passed on that Sunday. And so I tell people every time I mount the pulpit, it is a constant reminder that on my greatest opportunity that God gave me is one of the most painful opportunities that I endured. And so preaching to God's people, but losing my mom, and I'll share this. The pain is my mom heard my twin brother and older sister pastor their churches. Now she's heard me preach, but she ain't never heard me pastor. And so, God gives us the ability to move forward. And so it didn't become debilitating, but it is a constant reminder.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jump on in and ask Jay and Bernard, man, what is your frustration as relates to people's assumptions placed upon you as a pastor?
I think, bro, this conversation just begs for us to kind of hang out here for a minute. Because so many of us, I think something that Roger said, man, that what people don't realize is that when you lose members, we've lost somebody too. But I think we have a responsibility, man, of we got to find an innovative way to let people know that we don't have S's on our chest and capes on our back. Man, I think that for so long that we were taught to not show people a side of us. And but man, I think we do have to, because Jesus was human and divine.
Talk, Jay.
Yeah. And so often, man, we show them the spiritual, but we hide our humanity. And man, one of the things that I've just recently discovered about my church, man, is that they know who I am, and they can handle who I am. So here's another Jason Wilson quote. So in one of his books, he opens the chapter by saying, if you never put on a mask, you won't have to worry about it coming off. And so, man, I think that if we could just continue, man, to be our authentic selves, whether people can handle it or not, and man, just be who you are, unapologetic. Now, I didn't get here. I didn't get here overnight. I'm here now, but I didn't get here overnight, and I still have some struggles with it. But man, I'm at a place now where, hey, man, if I don't feel like doing something, I'm not doing it. If I don't feel like going to a particular place, I'm not going. Because I got to manage my own life. I got to manage my own emotions. Because we do grieve, man. We do grieve. And so I know in 2019, my grandmother passed, and man, I did not want to preach. And man, I didn't want to be in the pulpit. Man, for 3 months, man, I just grieved. And so I'll say this, I started going to therapy. And man, I'm an advocate for therapy, man. Just today I preached on a hoodie that said, I talk to God and my therapist, because I wanna really push, man, and and promote therapy for Black people, man, particularly for Black men, because we really don't go. I mean, we think that something is wrong with it, man, and so I want to be free, bro. I mean, free spiritually, free psychologically, and also free financially, And so, in order for that to happen, you really got to go to therapy, man. And so, man, I'm an advocate, man, strong advocate, man, of therapy, because what we do a lot. I think there's another statistic that suggests that 90% of Black people use church as a coping mechanism. And sometimes you need preaching and a professional. Sometimes you need Christ and a counselor.
And Jay, let me throw in say, and it's not a lack of faith, right? If you have a therapist, I actually have a therapy session tomorrow. We be transparent about it, right? It's not a lack of faith when you recognize that in that regard. I just want to make sure you insert that as well, because there's some people out there, and I was in that anti-therapy camp for a long time until 2021, where I found myself, I needed it because I was on some personal matters, right? But I was that one where I'm just gonna pray about it. I'm gonna pray about it. And listen, y'all, anything that you suppress will become volcanic, right? You're gonna have an eruption at some point in your life. And I had to finally be honest and say, okay, I'm blessed to do some great things, man, but I got to be real about the situation. So I just think that's important. But keep going, bro.
I'm good.
All right.
Somebody else can go ahead and jump in.
You about to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in too, and to kind of piggyback on what Roy and Julius was saying. Just because we manage it doesn't mean it's easy. And so what we find ourselves doing a lot of time is managing that pain. And they see, and I hate to say this, they see what we project. And sometimes what we are projecting is that we have an S on our chest and a cape on our back. But they don't know that when we get home, we're solitary, we're quiet, because now we got to figure out a way to deal with all of the stuff that we've had to go through and deal with. And so not only are you trying to deal with the loss that happens in the churches, but you're dealing with your own personal things. And if you pastor effectively, you're going to have some kind of connection to the people you pastor. There is absolutely no way to do it and not have that connection. And so when you have that connection, then you find yourself having to try to stand up with that S while you're trying to be what the rest of the congregation needs for you to be. And you're realizing that thing is kind of a little bit of a kryptonite for you, because it's wearing you down, it's beating you down. And so I think that, we're being very transparent about how tough it is. Now, I'm not saying it's tough for everybody, because everybody's not doing this because it's a calling. Some people are doing this because it's a vocation. They're coming to this because of what they think the popularity is, what they think the entertainment is. But when you do it for real, then you can't help but hurt when the rest of the congregation hurts. And so, just kind of grieving that loss and managing that pain is something that is really serious. It's something that we can't take for granted, because what ends up happening, and Derek, you said it a moment ago, it becomes a volcano. And so when we don't deal with that stuff, it's coming out in some kind of way. We just don't know how it's going to come out. But if I had to say, talk about one thing that frustrates me, I think it's how people take kindness for granted. And so as pastors, they think you're supposed to always turn the other cheek. They think you're not supposed to get mad like everybody else. You don't get frustrated like anybody else. But that's the farthest thing from the truth. And sometimes what people come at you, and I guess I'll add to this because it kind of goes with it. I hate preacher jokes. I hate being the only preacher in the room, and people want to say, those preachers, we got a preacher here, we got to watch. It doesn't matter to me. You can do what you want to do. I don't have a heaven or hell to put you in. Do exactly what you want to do. If your conscience doesn't make you want to do right, I sure can't make you do right. And so, having those things kind of happen, because I'm glad you said that we pastor, but that's not who we are. It's what we do. We're people just like everybody else. We have things that we love to do. We have things that bother us, and people have to be sensitive to that. And I think that they take our kindness for granted, and they kind of run that thing in the ground thinking, oh, they're the preacher, they're going to just keep letting it go. And in the moment you say something, they're looking at you crazy like, well, what's wrong with you? Well, what's wrong with you? Why did you go there? Why did you do it?
Yes, sir. B saying punks jump up to get beat down. What you doing? What you mean? Come on, Ash. You got to jump in, brother.
Hey, I think the thing that and what all of you have said is pretty much a combination of everything else. That a lot of times people forget that we're human too.
Yeah, man.
To quote Elder J.L. Wright, he didn't get a book, but he had one written about him. And I will quote him at this time. He used to say, "Iron rush too." So and I'm not made of iron. So the things that hurt you, they hurt me also.
My goodness.
So we don't want to be talked about. We don't want to be lied on. We don't want to be the same way. I had one of my daughters at the church who passed, and it was actually the hardest thing I ever had to do. And I thank God for Julius being there with me, man. He helped me in so many different ways. Just put it this way, just him accepting the assignment to be there with me. You know what I'm saying? To have someone that was in it with you. You know, I'm in it with the family. I'm in it with the church, but having someone, and my wife was there, don't get me wrong, family, they with me too, but to have my brother that was there, that was close, that was close to me, I tell him all the time, I appreciate him so much for that, because I needed that. I needed someone else I could lean on, you know what I'm saying, that was in it, to be that understood what I was going through. So a lot of times, and it's not their fault, it's not people's fault, because a lot of times, like B said, man, we don't project that we Superman.
Yeah.
We have kind of put it out there, even though, and some of us love being put on platforms and put on pedestals and all, please stand up when I come in and make it seem like things, but you know what, I'll let you know quick, man. I'm human. I got my own flaws, my own issues. You know what I'm saying? I come visit y'all churches sometimes. I sit in the back. I don't need to be up front. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I come because I just want to hear a word from you for me.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I'm not there for a speaking engagement. Y'all know I may end up in your back door. You look back there and be like, oh, no, you guys back there. And hey, I didn't come for that. If I wanted that, I could have called ahead and told you I was coming. But sometimes we have to be reminded sometimes and remind people that we are human too. And I get it both ways. Like B, I get the preacher jokes as well as I get the officer jokes. Like, I can't stand when I go in somewhere and people like, oh, tell a child, oh, he gonna get you. He go, oh man, you talking about, oh man, that ticks me off so much because you know what I'm saying? Oh, you better be good. The officer gonna put you in jail. They have a child cried and hollering, and I'm just trying to get Chick-fil-A food. I'm not here for none of that. You know what I'm saying? I cannot stand that. You know what I'm saying? So I'll say this. I had a guy one time, I did a funeral, and I was putting my things in the car, and the guy was like, yeah, man, look like I'm about to start passing too. I can get me one of these. And I almost let it go. But I couldn't. I turned around and said, hey, man, I work for a living. I had to correct that because they was under the impression if we have so-called nice things or whatever, that all of that just, come from the church. Don't get me wrong. I thank God for everything that Ned has done for me and do for me and my family. But I also work for a living too, as well. That's right. I don't just take everything from the church and put it in my pockets. Y'all know.
Come on now.
The church has to have something. You know what I'm saying?
Come on now.
It has to have. We don't even have a special meeting to pay bills and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Or we need to do something. There is meat in his house. That's another quote.
That's right.
Julius. That's in the Bible.
Come on now.
Hey, but he was under the impression that, you know what I'm saying, that I guess all I did, because he didn't know me, but he assumed that all I did was I preached. That's why I'm driving this car I'm driving. But no. I work for a living, and this is my wife. This is what I want her in. This is what I put her in. This is what I wanted my family in at the time. And that's why I go to work every day. You know what I'm saying? I work every day.
Every day. That's right.
So So the thing is, when people make assumptions of pastors and expect that all of us are the same, which we're not. And don't get me wrong, I know that comes along with the territory. It's some things, you just gonna have to deal with them. But it is frustrating for us sometimes to have to deal with it.
And let me add one more thing too, for everybody to understand. we talked earlier about, when we lose them, when you lose a family member, we lose someone as well. And talking about our mental health, it's important people also understand that when we are depleted, because we have, with love, served you effectively and cared for you and tended to your family, the reality of it all is when we are depleted, we go home to a family that has to deal with the depletion of who we are. We still want to be present and active husbands and fathers. And so, as I said to my kids, I'm not trying to win the church and lose my family, right? My son plays football. My daughter's in volleyball now, right? I want them to see their father at their events. Not me saying afterward, I wanted to be there, but I had a meeting at the church. I wanted to be there. No, I want them to see me there. Even if I'm there, if they have a 30-minute meeting, I want to be there. One of the things that was hilarious was I went to one of my kids' parent, I chaperoned one of my kids, and the way the moms looked at me and treated me, right, as if my son, my black son, couldn't have a black father in the house with him, right? They were asking me, "Who are you?" I'm his daddy, right? Like I'm married to his mom, right? I'm his whole life I've been there. It was almost like they treat me like I'm the babysitter, right? Like I'm the hired help. No, I'm there. We want that, and sometimes, most times, when we go home from Sunday after preaching, when we come home, we're exhausted. Our families are having to adjust and accommodate to that depletion that the people really don't know about, right? When I said yes to my call to ministry, I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids, right? When the Lord gave me the vision of launch Bible-based church, I was married with a son and a daughter on the way. When we launched our church, my daughter was 3 months old, right? I never asked her if she wanted her daddy to be a pastor. This is all she's known. And so in that regard, trying to rear them and raise them where, listen, you're going to make mistakes. So don't let anybody make you feel like because you're the pastor's son or daughter, you need to look to a certain standard. No, you don't. You're going to mess up. Like they kids mess up and we give them grace. If you mess up, 2 years ago, had a very frank discussion with his father, right? We had our son. He was in our church youth choir, and he was a part of every youth event we had. He finally said, "Dad, listen, I don't want to be in the choir. I want to work in the sound booth." So now my son and my nephew work in the sound booth, right? Because he finally said, "Listen," because my point is, you got to do something in church as Ash parents. You got to do something, right? But my son said, "Daddy, why I got to be up there singing? I don't want to be up there." And so now he gladly works in the sound booth in that regard. But there are people who expect, because you're the pastor's child, that you ought to act a certain way. When you go to a youth meeting, they expect the pastor's son to be able to exegete the text. Come on, man. They 17 and 13. They ain't exegeting no text yet, right? They're just kids having fun, right? My kids come to church with jeans on. Is that a sin?
Big.
You know what I'm saying? Like those type of things, man. But it's for me, I can deal with most frustrations. I am challenged when I see it wearing on my household, right? I'm challenged. Well, I'll give you guys a funny one. When I was in ministry, so prior to pastoring, I served in ministry, for those who don't know, under Pastor Walker. One particular Sunday, my wife was pregnant with our son. This was years ago. And I walked her to she was leaving out. I was going to stay for the next service. She was leaving to go to her mom's house until I came and got her at the church. And so we had this conversation. And this sister, I don't know if she was flirting. I don't know what it was, but she literally came and stood between me and my wife in the conversation with her back of her head to my wife's face and began to engage me in conversation. And my wife is peaceful and, she don't like controversy, so on and so forth. But that was a visual to me of blatant disrespect that had to be dealt with, right? Because she could have been flirting, whatever it may be. The fact of the matter is people never understand what our wives have to at times deal with or bite their tongues about because they don't want to go off because their husband is the pastor. So people sometimes will say things, right? And I used to be the one to say, "Tell my wife, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal with it." So I started realizing, hold on now, it's not fair of me to say to my wife, deal with it. She shouldn't have to deal with this. Not should my kids. And it could be a frustration when the pressure is placed upon the household to be perfect in every setting, right? And I think that's great. That's why I asked at the beginning about being the son of a pastor. And Pastor Ash also succeeded his father at his current pastorate, right? And so, Ash didn't start out preaching in a polo and Jordans, right? But over time, Jay succeeded Pastor Maxwell after so many years he had pastored there, and learning that transition in that regard. And so, but I would say to the people, even in our frustration, we still love y'all, right? We still love y'all, and thank God for trusting us in that regard. And I think that's critically important. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Hey, let me jump in real.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, man, when you were saying that, I just want to make sure we point out this picture, and I want everybody to hear us. Our faithfulness to our call trumps our frustration. It trumps our frustration.
Amen, brother.
And
Amen,
so,
brother.
man, this calling that God has put on our lives, I don't think any of us would trade it in. But God has graced our families, man, to, as you said, man, many times people don't know the countless hours our wives are up praying for us and covering us.
My God.
And consoling us, man,
My
because
God.
like Jay said, see, me, I'm different from y'all. See, man, my folk know that at my church I cry. But y'all, man, y'all wait till y'all get home around from everybody else, man. but they do that, man. And so one of the things that I instituted, and then I know Ash and Jay wanted to say something, man, is in order to balance my family, to balance church, man, I made a decision as a young preacher, man, to never accept any invitations on behalf of our church on a Friday, because that is family night. Many of us, as they said, our kids are active. We don't just have kids that go to school, but they're active. And so I wanted to make sure we promoted that within church, man. And so we don't ever want to lose our families for the sake of being the world's best pastor. And so, I just wanted to come back and say that because, I don't want people to think that we're so frustrated that, we're on the verge of just being done with it. But I want y'all to know that our faithfulness trumps our frustration.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. So
That's good, man. Yeah. What I wanted to say, man, is that we really have to protect our families. There, I don't know if you remember this, bro, but you and I were at the HB Charles preaching conference, and there was this panel discussion, man, and they was talking about pastoring, just having a balance of pastoring with your family. And one of the things that one of the preachers said, man, he talked about that we have to get our churches to understand that when they hired us, they didn't hire our wife and kids. We are employees of the church, but our families are not. So anything that my wife and my children, they do, man, it's service. And so I think that we have to protect them in that regard so that, they don't feel like they have these expectations of our families. And man, I never wanted to just force my boys to do something in church. But I wanted them to kind of find their way. And man, when we went through COVID, your family was your staff.
That's right. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that was your staff, your family, man. Your family, helped you really hold it out. Your family, and maybe a few other people, and man, and man, I'm so blessed even today. And I got great people at our church. Shout out to New Jerusalem, man. They serve, man. I mean, we got great folks there. However, man, my family. I mean, when I say family, I'm talking not only my wife and my boys, but man, my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law, my uncle, my aunts. And so I'm blessed, man, to have my family there. And man, a lot of times, if something need to be done at the church, they're left there in the kitchen cleaning up. And so, man, they gonna have your back. But I wanted to mention that about making sure that we really protect our family so that they don't really have to be up under any kind of pressure. Because I did it, man. When I first starting out, I would schedule church events on my kid's birthday. Man, I was doing some stupid stuff, man. I mean, when I look back at it now, I was just like, hey, not now, if I can't make it, I can't make it, and so I think that we can't feel like we got to prove to the people you know, that we can do it. That's what I was doing. I was trying to prove to him that, hey, I got this. This is my first church. I could do it. But now, man, I'm chill, man. I'm good, man. I got staff, and so now I understand the significance of delegation and delegating assignments to different preachers, man, so that, you know, the church is not centered around me. You know, one of the things I respect Reverend Maxwell even more when he passed away, because when he passed, our church didn't go down; it went higher. And man, that speaks to leadership, man. If your church is dependent upon you to be there, then something wrong. And so you gotta love it enough. Y'all hear me, preachers? You gotta love it enough to leave it.
My God.
We gotta love it enough to leave it, man. And Jesus said, "Upon this rock I will build my church."
Come on now.
And the gates of hell. I wish I had a Hammond right now, Hammond organ.
Dun, dun, dun.
And the gates of hell shut not is his church. Right. Bro, it's his church, man. And so, man, when you get that revelation that it's his church, man, you can enjoy your life. You can go out of town. You can, you know, enjoy your family. And when you get back, it'll be.
Absolutely.
I want to chime in a little bit on that about protecting our family. I think with my wife and I, we're kind of unique. And I tell the congregation sometimes when they got both of us, they actually got a whole pastor, because everything I'm not, she is. And so the congregation is better for it. But I've had to do some things to kind of protect her. I remember once getting some invitations to go and preach somewhere. And I had to have a conversation with the pastor first. And I said, well, you know, my wife's a preacher too. And so if they weren't going to honor her with what the call was on her life, then it was somewhere that I chose not to go, because I wanted to make sure that she knows that I support her fully. I support her 100% in the calling that's on her life. And that's my way in this particular portion of our life of protecting her, is just honoring the call that's on her life. And I think that our church is the better for having both of us. I joke sometimes and I tell them, I say, when you want to cry, go to her. But when you're ready to get a solution to the problem, you can come to me. Now I know, and you know how I'm joking about that, but really that's what it is. She's that one. She has that nurturing spirit, and she's going to be able to do that. And I think that God calling us together for this particular time is just a blessing. But how I, you know, choose to protect her, and sometimes she doesn't want to do some things, I'm like, okay, and you know, we go about our business. But I feel like I need to do that for her and to respect the calling that's on her life.
Yeah, I think one thing that I was reminded of, even as a pastor's kid, a few years back, my dad, we were sitting there talking, and he told me, he said, son, I want to apologize to you. And I was like, for what? And he was like, you played basketball all the way through high school, you played football, you know, and I went to one game each because I was so busy with church that I missed out on what you did. You see what I'm saying? And I didn't know until he had said that how much that hurt. You see what I'm saying? I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? Because you know how we are. We talk, we keep it moving, we good. But I did not know how much I missed, you know, my dad not being there for my games. So in return, as a pastor, all the kids in my church know if they in any extra activity, I'm gonna be there. You know what I'm saying? I had one of the young men the other day was in at the service, and I told him, I said, man, he plays football for Wakulla, and I said, man, I it's his senior year. I said, I got to get there. He got a game Friday. I got to try to get there, because you know, I as much as they come to where we are in church, I want to make sure that I in return
there it is
show them, you know what I'm saying, like I got to go see Lil D again. You see what I'm saying? And show that, you know, that as much as we're pastors, but at the same time, we want to show them that, hey, I'm interested in what you do too. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I made sure as a pastor that I was going to do, that when my kids had games or whatever they had or what was going on, that I was going to be there. Because, you know, at one point in time, I used to work night shift in patrol where, you know, I work nights. So I may have to come in just for a few minutes, let them see my face, and I got to go because I got to catch a call. You see what I'm saying? But I wanted them to know that, you know what, I was there.
Yeah.
Because I did not never want my kids to not know their dad was there for them. You see what I'm saying? So it was nothing more important. Yes, I have to work. Yes, I have a calling outside of ministry is a big calling, as well as being in law enforcement. There are certain things, like my youngest daughter asked me one time when she was younger. She was like, Daddy, why when there's a hurricane, why you can't leave when we leave? I said, baby, because I have to go to work. That's my job. I have to get in there and go to work. When everybody else can go and leave or do what they need to do or take care of the family, I have to take care of my family also. Then I got to take care of the citizens of Leon County, because that's my other calling that I have to do. So it's important that we show our kids and everybody else that human side of us. You see what I'm saying? That it ain't just about the pulpit. You see what I'm saying? It's not just about the church. It is important, don't get me wrong, but the relationship we have in Christ should trump our relationship we have with the building.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, we're nearing the end of our show. Our plan and commitment is to have a time, and that's absolutely okay. We are covenant brothers, and we call it Real Talk with Real Brothers, where we're going to talk about varying things in each of our discussions going forward. So as we near the end of our inaugural launch episode, let me first express again my sincere appreciation to my 4 brothers. Thank y'all, man, for being a part of this assignment that the Lord has given. Thank you for helping help me be obedient to what God has required and is declaring. Thank you for always being genuinely who you are to each of us in that regard. Let me thank all of you who've been watching us live stream on both Facebook and on YouTube. I'm able to see behind the scenes on comments and who's viewing on which platform. Thank you in that regard. For our future shows, the stream is always live. If you have a question you want to pose to us, feel free to put that in the chat. If we have time, we'll answer that question. And so as we near the end of our show, if there is someone who's watching right now who has at least one question you want to pose, as you want us to try to answer before we sign off, please, sir or ma'am, you're welcome to do that in that regard. But I want to thank my brothers for their commitment to being a part of this conversation going forward, right? We try to identify a day and a time that where we don't have to add on to other things, and Sunday evening seems to be what that is. We get done preaching, we eat, and we go home and take naps, and so Sunday evening seems to be what that's going to be. And I'm grateful again for my brothers who are a part of that. I want to thank our wives for supporting us in doing this, right, and being a part of us doing this and encouraging us in that regard. We may at some point in the future have a show where we have our wives come on with us. No promise there. That may end up happening, right? But this ain't about them right now. This is about us. And so I don't want to promise anything that's not going to happen. But I am grateful for each of you for being a part of our conversation tonight. So as we prepare to sign off, I want to go around and give each of my brothers a chance to just give some closing comments. And I'm going to go based on how you appear on my screen. So Big Bro Ash, you the first one on my screen, man. Just give some closing words.
I appreciate it, man. I love this. I love the transparency. I love the realness of it. I love us. One thing I love about us, man, we're all approachable. You can talk to us. Ain't none of us like sedity and act like we more than what we supposed. You know me. I hate fake Christian junk. You know what I'm saying? I love real people. I would dare not be on here with any one of these brothers that I don't feel as real. If I didn't feel the realness of it, I promise you, I'll still be riding my motorcycle right now. I don't have time for this. You see what I'm saying? But this is a blessing, and I think it's going to be a blessing for a lot of people. They get a chance to see us, real pastors, real black men, real men standing up, showing that we talked about some of everything, going to counseling. Y'all weak jokers in counseling, you know what I'm saying? I'm just playing. Y'all know me. I'm just playing. You know, we would have never had this kind of conversation with us talking about going to counseling. You know what I'm saying? And y'all sitting on the couch telling people all y'all problems. You know, talk to Jesus. I ain't got time for that. I'm just playing. But that's what I love, man. We can laugh, joke, have a good time, man. And I love y'all brothers, man. I appreciate everyone that's on here. Hey, look, stay tuned. I'm telling you, the best is yet to come.
Yeah, man. That's right. Ro,
Again, man, thank you, Derek, for hearing God's call for you to engage us in this conversation. I'm so appreciative that it allows us a platform for people to see us for who we are. I need y'all to give me a round of applause. I made it through an entire show without being Peter.
yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir. They have no idea what that means
certainly,
yet, but thank God, brother.
But it is truly a pleasure to have you guys in my life that allows a space and an area for us to be who we are, genuine. And so I'm looking forward to the in-depth conversations. I'm looking forward to the lighthearted conversations. And just as I stated before, man, just continue to pray for us as we're praying for you. And know that I think through this, I think people will gain a greater respect for the call that's on our life.
Hey, Ro, Pastor Davis, what's up, Pastor Joe? Pastor Joe said, come forth, Peter.
I can't do it, not tonight. No, sir. No, sir. We're not hanging out at the barrel tonight.
It's on you, B.
Man, I'm just glad for this opportunity, glad for the space to be open and honest, and to be able to have this discussion. Believe it or not, everybody, this is what we do all the time. We when we're out to breakfast or lunch or whichever it is, these are the kinds of conversations that we have, conversations where we can share frustrations, conversations where we can share those things that hurt us deeply. You know, we get a chance to talk about it and try to work our way through that, which helps us to be as best we can and stay true to who God has called us to be. So I'm excited about the conversations that are going to come forth. I just like talking. I just like talking with these brothers, and I can probably be seen as the one who doesn't do a lot of talking. As a matter of fact, sometimes I'm just quiet. Matter of fact, before I got married, I told my wife, I said, sometimes I just don't want to talk. And, you know, she had to come to learn. She said, but you talked so much before when we were dating. I said, actually, you were doing all the talking. So sometimes, you know, just having this platform where we can, and she listening right now, so she gonna probably put in a
She gonna put something in the comment. Absolutely.
Yeah, she gonna put something in the comment.
You better dump.
I got the door closed right now, but she'll be here in a minute. But I'm the one that, you know, I really do enjoy that. It may not come off sometimes, but I really do enjoy these conversations that we're able to have. And I pray that, you know, what comes forth is a blessing to whoever chooses to tune in. And I encourage everybody that you're looking, be on the lookout for the next one. Tune in for what we're going to be able to talk about. We're going to be real here. This is not about putting up, you know, putting on airs or being anything that we're not. We're going to be true to who we are. And I just like the opportunity to have this honest space.
Appreciate you, bro. Pastor J, man, round us out.
For just, man, being obedient, man, to God, man, to carrying out this vision, bro. This was something that the Lord put on your heart, man. And a lot of times God will speak to us, but we'll keep putting it off. And man, this conversation is needed, bro. It's necessary. I think there's a need for people to see, you know, black men, you know, whole, you know what I'm saying? Black men having conversations, man, because a lot of brothers, man, are frustrated, man. They angry. And so man, it's needed, man. And one of the things I want to just close with, I know Ash talked about his bike, and I didn't get a chance to say this, man. I want to just say this, man. I'm at a stage in my life now, man. I'm 48, where I love to see grown men with hobbies.
Yes, sir.
And I can't stress how important it is, man, for us to have a hobby. Ralph West calls it healthy play. And here's what he says. He says that if you don't play right, you'll play wrong. So every man, every preacher, you need something to do that has nothing to do with the church, that has nothing to do with ministry, right. Something that you can do, right, man, to get away. And man, that helps to bring balance in your life, man. That helps for you to have peace in your life. And man, because this, I mean, my goal in ministry, bro, and I close with this. I know I said that's my second time. You know, we got at least 3 closes. So I got one more.
Hey,
I'm getting ready to close. Yeah, but man, you need a place, man. You need a place where you can go. And but I appreciate your friendship. And we gotta do a show about friendships.
Yeah, correct.
Because man, I got so much respect for you guys, man. I learned something from all of you. And man, so we gotta do a show, man, about the importance of friendships, because a lot of pastors are lonely, man, with no friends. And so man,
right.
Man, this man, y'all Covenant brothers, man. Y'all give me life, man. And so man, I appreciate y'all, man. Love y'all. And man, can't wait to the next one. So let's go.
Hey, B, let me B, I don't know if you saw your wife's comment to your statements, but I'm gonna put it back on the screen. She said lies, brother. Lies. So just make sure you saw that. So when you open that door, actually, you may want to duck me open that door, brother. Just if we don't hear from you by tomorrow, we'll come check on you.
Yeah, y'all better check.
Listen,
Y'all better check in. Y'all better check in on a brother.
You in trouble.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all again for being a part of our inaugural show. We will be back on fourth Sunday of next month. I want to give you a heads up that we actually have identified some topics for at least some of our future shows, and they're going to expound. And so as the host of the show, I get the pleasure of being able to pick, and then of course we agree upon it. But I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a heads up on our next show in hopes that you all will join us. Our next show will be "My Skin Is My Sin." How do you feel being Black in America?
Wow.
My skin is my sin. How you feel about being Black in America? I'm going to add to that. We're going to talk also about the challenge of the Black church in today's context, right?
Wow.
And so we're going to add that to that conversation. I am unapologetically a lover of the local church and of the Black church, so we're going to have that conversation. Again, my skin is my sin. How do you feel about being Black in America? We want to have that conversation, right? Because our parishioners are struggling with things that are going on. But most times us as pastors, we never talk about just the challenge of having to maneuver through all of this as well. And so that is a precursor to our next show. Again, thank you all so very much for being a part and being viewers of this. To the pastors who we want to give acknowledgement to you. Thank you so much, Pastor Joseph Davis, Pastor David Eggleston, my brother, Pastor Preacher Warren Cave, Bernard's wife, who is a preaching machine, to our beautiful wives who are watching tonight. Thank y'all for being on. To all of you who are part of this, thank you so much. Keep us in your prayers. If you're on Facebook, please share tonight's video on your page that we may be able to bless other people. But we're going to keep it real on every one of our shows. We're not going to dress it up. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to be honest about all that we talk about. So that's our show for next time. So we're giving you a heads up in that regard. Listen, Ash, Ro, BJ, you know, I love y'all, man. Y'all my dudes, man. Thank y'all for being a part of this. Thank you for your commitment going forward. Let's have fun doing what we're going to do. We give God praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving. And as we sign off, we thank God for who he is and all of his glory. Have a great night. God bless you. This is Conversation with the Covenant Brothers. Real talk, real brothers. God bless you all.